Okay, thank you so much. We must just keep our communication lines open so that all the things that we need to know, they are already in place and will be made available to all of us. Especially, I know all the local clubs are already waiting, but we have to go through the channels in order for all the materials to be available to us. Now, we are going to proceed to a very another important part, but this is just an update because you can actually download all the manuals, the checklists, the master guide, the requirement cards, and even a sample of the master guide training portfolio from the websites. Okay, you can go, for example, to the GC Youth Ministry website, and you can get the materials from there. Also available from NAD, Master Guide Club Ministries website. And of course, you can just go and ask from our youth directors, especially from the union, because all these manuals have been or are in the process, if they have not been sent yet, in the process of being sent from our SSD youth office. Okay, so now we would like to present to you some updates about this Master Guide curriculum. But the one that I will be presenting today is the one that we have adapted into the SSD Master Guide curriculum. What does it mean? The GC gave out all the to the divisions and down to the different levels of organizations, the general basic requirements for Master Guide trainees. However, each division has been given like a leeway to adapt that Master Guide curriculum from the General Conference into their own local context, so that we will be able to develop. Remember, Master Guide training is a youth leadership training for our youth leaders in the church, specifically for club ministry, okay? And also, it helps prepare for the other ministries like senior youth ministry, ambassador ministry, and the other ministries under the youth department. So, in view of the emphasis that we have now, earlier, Pastor Ron, in his welcome, again mentioned about the 5 C's. Remember the 5 C's emphasis and vision of our SSD youth and young adult ministries for the past 2 or 3 years and going on to the next 5 years. And so, in view of that, the youth directors, let me share my screen a little bit. The youth directors, union youth directors, were called to a meeting by our youth director from SSD, Pastor Ron, and that happened in January 26 of this year. Let me share my screen. Okay. So in that meeting, all the union youth directors, these are the new ones, and together with the union Master Guide representatives. That means that in the past 2 years, we have had Master Guide representatives from each union helping out in all the activities for Master Guides and Pathfinders. And that's why we have also a Pathfinder coordinator for SSD, and that is Master Guide Jimmy. Later, he will be presenting something more detailed for the CMT. And then we have the one who facilitated our question and answer, Master Guide Oswald. He is the SSD Adventurer Coordinator. And yours truly is the SSD Master Guide Coordinator. So together with the other Master Guide representatives, we voted and the Union Youth Directors to accept the adapted Master Guide curriculum for SSD. That means that from the time it was voted on January 26, it will be implemented right away once the unions will start that implementation in their different territories. Now, what are the additional things that we need to know in this adapted version of the new Master Guide curriculum? Well, let me share with you. Of course, we already have previously almost the same basic requirements. Let me share another screen here, if I may, so that you can see the manual. Okay, so I will go to another screen so I can show you the present manual that we have. Okay, so this is the new Master Guide Curriculum Manual. And I will just quickly scroll down. You can download this, and also you can request a copy from our, I think right now, the Union Youth Directors already have a copy of this. So as you can see in on the screen, we have almost the same categories of requirements for Master Guide. And they just updated it. We still have the same prerequisites. However, there's one thing that we have added into the SSD context for the Master Guide requirement. And as you can see here on the red, we have here for that is a prerequisite. Okay, so if you're a Master Guide trainee that will be inducted this year, then that means that Voice of Youth certification is already part of the requirement. Okay, so for those who are already in the process, I think because you're about to finish your Master Guide training, you don't have to go through this. But for this newly adapted version, for the new trainees, this will have to be implemented. Okay, Voice of Youth certification there. And then let me quickly scroll down. On the spiritual growth part, we added an option on the Bible reading that our Master Guide in training or Master Guide trainees can opt to read a chapter a day following the GC reading plan. And that is what we are doing also in our SSD Bible reading plan. So that's part of that. And then another one, part of the spiritual growth requirement is we added a number 8 for SSD Master Guides to be an active member or leader of a prayer network in your local conference, mission, or church. So all the things that we have added and adopted, already voted by the Union Youth Directors, are in line with the 5 C's vision of our SSD youth. So let me go back to the original file that I was sharing so you can see the summary, okay? The summary of all the things that have been added. So this is the summary. Number 1, part of the prerequisite is Voice of Youth certification for Master Guide trainees or MITs. So if you're a newly inducted Master Guide trainee or MIT, you have to go through this Voice of Youth certification. Now, how will this be done? Okay, Voice of Youth certification has already been completed in, I think, all unions last year. Every union has done Voice of Youth certification. Therefore, it means that every union and maybe down to the local missions and conferences are already equipped to do their own Voice of Youth certification locally, together with the Master Guide clubs of different local territories. So that will be done in coordination with the mission, conference, or union youth director. So remember, one of the things that we want you to take note of, club directors, is that everything that we will do in implementing this new curriculum should be coordinated with our local mission, conference, or union youth director. Don't just go ahead with the training without coordinating. We want to be able to make sure that our higher organization level is aware of what we are doing so they can also give their support. Okay, number 2, in the summary is the spiritual growth. I already mentioned the option to read a chapter a day following the GC reading plan as an option to the other requirements that are already there. And in addition, Master Guide trainees or MITs must be an active member or leader of a prayer network team in your local conference, mission, and church. And this can be certified and placed together with the portfolio that you have to submit in order to prove that you have finished all the requirements. Okay. And then lastly, there's one more in the lifestyle development section of the requirements. We added be a certified SAD-free movement advocate. Now, you might be wondering what is SAD-free, okay? Pastor Ron is the one who really started all of this, and it's very active in many places of our youth ministry in the Philippines, and now even in other unions. We also have a chapter here right now. I'm ministering here in Thailand. We have a chapter of the SAD-free movement. We want to promote and see our young people, especially youth leaders, because Master Guide training is a youth leadership training for youth leaders, to be advocates of health and temperance, because SAD-free stands for smoking, alcohol, and drug-free youth. And this is part of historically the beginnings of our youth ministry in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Before, we don't have really pathfinders and things like that to begin with, but we already have temperance societies incorporated with the youth ministry at the very beginning of this ministry in our church. So we want our young people to really be active advocates of health and temperance also in our church. So only very few, okay? Only very few were added in line again with the 5 C's emphasis of our SSD youth ministry. Again, this is the summary. If you can take a screenshot so you will know. The rest of the requirements are the same as the one from the GC that you can download. Now, you might be asking, how can we know, how can we have the manual for this? Okay. The manuals for the new Master Guide curriculum with the adapted content, I think, will be sent to the union youth director. So make a follow-up with your union youth directors, or maybe if it has already been shared, maybe the local mission and conference youth directors already have a copy. Number 2, how about Master Guide checklist for this new curriculum? Okay. For the Master Guide checklist and also a sample template of the Master Guide portfolio, the one that I showed you earlier, it's already available for download from the GC Youth website. However, I think maybe Pastor Ron can give added light before I end here. I think we are in the direction that SSD will be providing like a copy which includes the additional requirements for SSD that we have added here to, again, the different union youth directors. So we will go through that channel from the SSD to the union, down to the local mission conference, and down to the local Pathfinder and Master Guide clubs. So I hope we are able to give you a very short but very clear information about the newly adapted Master Guide curriculum for our SSD youth and Pathfinder and Master Guide club. So that's all, Pastor Ron.
Yeah, Master Guide Aaron, thank you very much.